Hello, this is Shanker, and these are small videos which I make on predictive astrology, my research, what I've observed while seeing around multiple thousands of horoscopes. And about me, you can see my website shankarstudy.com, Shankar with an E, study.com. You can have a look at the site. Tells you all about my work on astrology, my books, etc. Now, today I'm going to discuss about Rahu. Rahu is a dreaded planet, but what I've seen is that the most mysterious and the intrigue part of Rahu is Rahu in the 12th house. Whenever Rahu is in the 12th house, Jupiter gets weak because in the Kalpurush it is 12th house is governed by two planets basically, which I have observed is Jupiter and Rahu. So whenever Rahu is in the 12th house, the Jupiter gets quiet. It doesn't give much results, and Jupiter is actually 50% of your horoscope. It is the karak of second, fifth, ninth, and 12th house. So that is what happens when Jupiter is in the 12th house. Then Rahu may be anywhere, it silences itself. So the negative part of Rahu does not happen. Now, negative part of Rahu is good for non-life things, but it is not good for life things. Remember that very clearly. So whenever Jupiter is the 12th house, Rahu tends to get subdued. See it for yourself, and you'll read it. Jupiter and Rahu together is like a no-go situation because you have a huge Akash, and the Budh is the part which is below the Akash, the gaseous part. And when Jupiter and Rahu are together, it is, especially in the 12th house, it is quite miserable. It creates a lot of issues, a lot of miseries. So that's one part of it. Now, what is the planet which controls Rahu? The planet which controls Rahu very effectively is Mars. So whenever Mars is in 12th house, it effectively controls Rahu. The reason what I've seen is Mars is a friend of Jupiter, Mars is a friend of Sun, and Mars is a commander-in-chief. So when the commander-in-chief is in the 12th house, it is able to control Rahu. Rahu is like the elephant, and Mars is the person who rides that elephant. So, whenever Mars will be in the 12th house, Rahu gets controlled. Now, Rahu as a planet is by itself, I've seen, doesn't do anything, but it actually takes orders from Mercury, Budh, and Rahu will act as Mercury wants it to act. And Mercury is a very, very tricky and a very, very devious planet. You have to understand it when it is good, when it is bad, when it rolls, what it does, where it is. It's the most mysterious planets, and Rahu carries out the orders of Mercury. So that is another thing which you have to be careful upon. So Rahu, whenever it is in the house of Jupiter, it tends to get quiet. Jupiter, if it's in the 12th house or with Rahu, Jupiter tends to become quiet. The planet which controls Rahu is Mars in the 12th house. Now, Rahu in 3rd and 6th, I have seen, gives a person an idea of religion or an idea of mysticism or the idea to life a little different. Like, he made some persons I've seen joining different sects, or their understanding of religion becomes very different. In extreme cases, I've seen people converting themselves from one religion to the other religion. So this is what I've seen when Rahu is in the 3rd and 6th. Though Rahu in 3rd and 6th is very good as far as your material benefits are concerned and giving crushing defeats to enemies. It's a very, very, very good thing to have. Rahu in the 10th house will basically behave like Saturn. If Saturn is strong, Rahu will give you good results. If Saturn is not strong, Rahu will not give you good results when Rahu is in the 10th house. Rahu in the 9th house, it's a very tricky place to have, but we can discuss that later. But Rahu in 9th house Again, ninth house is ruled by Jupiter. So the karak of ninth houses, as far as I'm concerned, is Jupiter. So whenever Rahu is in the ninth house, it will create some mischief, but Jupiter will be able to control it if you have a strong Mars and Sun also. So these are the Nadi system which I try to follow, and more or less I've seen it comes right. And whenever Rahu is in the 11th house, again, I'm not talking about money here, but it creates a disconnect between yourself and your grandfather. I mean, you and your grandfather, there will be a disconnect. Mostly I've seen the grandfather would die by about when you're 12 years. If he doesn't die, I've seen the grandfather and you would be living at different places. And if the person having Rahu in the 11th house and the grandfather stays together, there could be a lot of issues and problems whenever Rahu is in the 11th house. Rahu in the 4th house is not bad, because the Mool Trikon sign of Rahu is Cancer, and this is so here Chandrama is like the mother. She is the mother of all planets. She is benevolent. She's like helps everybody. It's one of the best planets, without which gives you longevity, which gives you finance, which gives you liquidity. A lot of things are governed by Chandrama, and whenever Rahu is in the house of Chandrama, it swears by it. I mean, it takes oath that it will not do anything bad, because it's in the house of its a planet which it treats like a mother. But here you have to be careful that you should not be taking non-veg, because that is not a good thing to have. Rahu in 4th also is also important. Is Rahu governs your bathroom, your latrine, your place where your rooftop, where you put things. These are things which Rahu governs. And when Rahu is in the 4th house, when you change things, I mean, change the roof of your house, change the latrine of your house, remove the staircases of the latrine or the bathroom, or make some structural changes there, that period will be a very tense period, and it could create kind of emotional strains and tensions. Rahu in 5th house. 5th house is the house of Surya. Rahu in 5th house, Surya and Rahu do not go well, and so sometimes in the family somebody may have 2 marriages. It also creates issues with if you have a sibling, a brother. First of all, you may not have a brother which is younger to you, and if you have a brother younger to you, there could be problem there. And whenever Rahu is in the 5th house and you have Sun becomes weak, and Sun is the king, and when the king becomes weak, the commander-in-chief, which is Mars, that again becomes weak, and if Sun and Mars become weak, it's going to be a problem. So this is what I have my assessment about Rahu. And then as I told you, that Jupiter and Rahu, the way they create, these are the 2 houses which governs 12th house. The Jupiter and Rahu, they're governing the 12th house. So whenever Rahu is in, like whenever, let's say, a planet Saturn and Surya together in 12th house, they somewhat will resemble Rahu. They're like Rahu. Saturn and Surya, when they combine, they become Rahu. It's something like Rahu in 12th house. So such people are more active in the night. Rahu in the 12th house also makes the person active at night. He will speak at night. He will strategize during the night time. He would have a lot of thoughts, material thoughts, which come in the night, and he may be able to fulfill them also. So, Rahu in the 12th house, of course, silences Jupiter, but it may not be very bad for, if you just say material things, he may be a good hard worker, a person who's working a whole night, who can brag, who can be a good middleman, who could be a good, those kinds of things, in which you could be a con man, could make a lot of money out of nothing. So those kinds of things Rahu will give in 12th house, only Rahu alone. So, whenever Rahu is there, Jupiter gets quiet, and whenever Jupiter is there, Rahu will get subdued. Similarly, in the 6th house, the planet which rules the 6th house, Budh and Ketu. So whenever Budh is there in the 6th house, Ketu becomes bad, and whenever Ketu is there in 6th house, Budh will become bad. So, this is what I've seen tried out. So And I'm just talking about the house. I'm just talking about the Kal Purush Mundi, sixth house as such. So whenever Buddha is in the sixth house, Ketu governs happiness, Ketu governs sun. So these are things which Ketu governs. I'll talk about Ketu later. It will create problems. And whenever Ketu is there, Buddha will become bad. And Buddha, of course, becoming bad creates a lot of issues. Similarly, with Jupiter and Rahu, we already explained. I'm repeating the same things again just because for you to test it. Mars in 12th house controls Rahu. I've explained to you. I've also explained to you Mars, Rahu in various other places, various other important houses which are there. And I've seen in experience this comes out correct. This is just snapshot look at a horoscope, and these things will more or less be there in some way or the other. So that's it. Thanks and bye for now. This is Shanker signing out. See you later. Bye.